Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name's Bryn. What I'm going to discuss today is the five amazing benefits you get when quitting alcohol. I quit in 2017, quit for 5 years, pretty much, maybe four, closer to four and a half, and then decided one day for various reasons, which I'll talk about in later videos. Ended up kind of started to drink again, moderated a bit as usual, as you can imagine. First 6 months, I was quite good at going out for a few beers and going home at 10 o'clock or whatever. And yeah, I was on my best behavior, and then slipped back into the old ways, unfortunately, as many of us do. Yeah, and then quit again in July of this year. Decided I had enough again. I'll go through all the reasons in different videos. This is the first one, as you can probably see in my video library. But today I just thought it would be important to go through what means generally most to me and most to most people out there, I guess, which is the benefits you end up getting. And this is only five I'll go through. I'll maybe go through a few more, as there's countless, depending on your situation, what you really perceive as being a massive benefit. But there's so many benefits, small and large, and all the small benefits combine to become larger benefits anyway. But the first one I was going to talk about was just physical health. I couldn't believe how unfit I was, even in uh, times where I thought I was walking quite a lot. You know, you walk to the shops, etc., and out of breath by the time you get there, running for a bus, for example, which is surreal when you think about it. And I always remembered the first time I stopped drinking, 2017 to 22, and it was kind of frustrating me. It was always in my head how fit I actually was, and that's something that comes back. And even in the month and a half, I'm back on my alcohol-free life 2.0. I can already feel the benefits. I mean, went for a massive walk last night. Went for a massive walk today, and it's just a different world. You know, waking up and actually having that fitness, and with the fitness, of course, becomes all the energy you get. You know, just on the go all day, even if you're working 9 till 5 or you work a long shift or you've been walking, then you go to the gym, then you do stuff around the house, you're still kind of keen to keep going. It's actually quite amazing, and just having that extra energy will make such a difference in your life, And like I say, just physically feeling good as well. Not only kind of inside, but outside, the bags under your eyes go and, your beards, if you've got one, starts to kind of look healthy and same as your hair and your skin, and you just feel just looking in the mirror, you just feel a million times better, because I think we've all been to that stage, especially on a Monday morning where you've maybe had a heavy weekend. Because I never woke up in the morning, down in vodka or anything like that. I was just your quintessential British binge drinker, to be honest. That's what I was. So looking at yourself on the Monday morning, or maybe you had a few beers in the summer on a Wednesday night, or a heavy brunch on a Sunday or a barbecue, and yeah, maybe that was um yeah, that looking in the mirror after those, after those days or benders or whatever you want to call them, even a heavy session. I mean, at night you wake up, you got the bags under your eyes, and I think once you get, I'm 41, so once you get to a certain age, I think it's just, not really what you should be doing. It's not really kind of ideal, joining calls on a Monday, or you're meeting people on the Monday or a Thursday, whatever, and you look like crap as well. But like I say, the first one's definitely kind of physical, a physical difference. Let's say inside and out, energy, feeling great, kind of looking 100 times better than you did. Definitely looking a lot younger as well, and your skin just kind of takes on a different shape, even after 2 3 weeks. To be honest, not necessarily years and years. It's quite amazing. Another big one for me, and probably the reason why I stopped drinking again for this clean living, sober living 2.0 that I started in July, is the lack of anxiety. It's just really, really hit or miss. up in Scotland. I don't know what you call it in the US or maybe down. I'm not sure in England as well, but we have a word. We just call it the fear. So you get the fear, especially on a Monday morning. Sometimes a Sunday, if you maybe know you've got a big Monday or kind of things like that. Yeah, there's nothing worse than the dreaded fear, to be honest. And it was just kind of taking over my life. It started off just, I think the kind of first year back, kind of boozing, let's say, it was kind of just your quintessential British binge drinker, drinking most weekends and the odd Sunday session. But like I say, never really drinking on a school night, but logging into work calls on a Monday morning when you've had a heavy Sunday or and sometimes even a heavy Friday, Saturday or a heavy Saturday kind of once you get into once you get into your 30s, those hangovers start creeping into day 2 and 3, which isn't really ideal. Yeah, not ideal at all. But they just I think I remember the last Monday, that was the day I actually quit drinking. It was just level 10 out of 10, just worrying about nothing. And it's funny because 2 or 3 days later, it completely goes. You might worry because you got a insignificant letter from the tax man, or maybe somebody's chasing you up for something you forgot to sign something off, or maybe you forgot to do something on Friday at work and you balloon it into this big thing, and it's just absolutely crazy when you think of it, and you feel just like a bit of an idiot by the time it wears off. But that Monday, I think I had a few deliveries coming as well, and it was just the thought of going to the door, even and seeing another human, I guess, was just was just like I say, it just felt like a massive deal, and I think that's kind of one of the reasons I quit was just that anxiety. Some people call it hangxiety, which I think is quite a good word as well. And I think that it actually goes pretty much straight away when you quit drinking. Obviously, it's not going to solve all your issues if you've got a bit of debt, or if you're maybe not in a job, or you having issues with your partner, or something like that, or you've fallen out with people and done something stupid. That's always going to be there, maybe, but it's not going to be on the level that you're probably experiencing. Some people watching this might be in that stage at the moment, might be watching this on the Sunday, just kind of worrying about everything, ridiculous, like Armageddon's on the way. Um, but do know that it does go very, very quick. Excuse me, and I think that's one of the things that does disappear quite quick. I mean, nothing's an overnight fix, but I will say that along with genuinely feeling better, of course, when you actually do quit, and you do get gradually better as 1 week goes down, or even a few days, and then you kind of get back to it, in a week, then 2 weeks, and you get 3 or 4 weekends where you just manage to chill, have a good sleep, etc. But the anxiety does go really, really quick, I think, for most people. Well, most people have said, obviously there's different cases. People might be really introverted and anxious by nature, but I think for just the regular Joe like myself who, just, works, and we got mortgage worries or rent worries, or, car bills coming off, especially these days with the amount everything costs, I think unless you're earning a good six-figure salary these days, I think everyone's worrying about their pensions and their payments and what they're going to do for their kids. And I don't have any kids, but just the amount of bills that come off. We have council tax in the UK, and you get your wages and you pay national insurance tax on that. And even when you go to the shop, you've got shrinkflation. So even though everything's so much more expensive, and I mean a lot more expensive than it was a few years ago, the things you're buying are smaller. You no longer get four ice creams in a pack; it's three. But anyway, I'm rambling a bit here. But like I say, the anxiety, big change for me. One of the best things that could happen. Um, Another thing for mental health I would like to add there is just the clear thinking. Just not only you waking up in the morning fresh as a daisy, you just feel like taking on the day. Um, you just feel like you can run a marathon in your head, if that makes sense. If you've got work to do, you're up early, you're on it. You know, if if you get mail through the door, you're not just sticking it to the side. I'll deal with it later. You're doing it. If there's a leak in your shower that's been, you've been putting it off for months and months, which everyone does because you're really going to do it on a Sunday after you've been out the Saturday. Sure, a lot of people can relate to that. Um, you wake up and you just get it done, and the cumulative effect of that is waking up and you're on top of everything. It's a great feeling. You know, by the time people are normally coming to work, if you work 9 till 5, people have been maybe dropping kids off, etc., and doing their gym, etc. But by the time you log on at 9, you might have had a good look at your emails. You planned the day ahead. You're already on top of your work anyway, so there's no surprises. You're not waiting for that email from your client or from your boss about some half-arsed task you did that week because you were just not in the mood because you had a heavy weekend, or you're just really, really on top of the world, and it is a really feeling. You just get this absolute energy. I used to actually call it, and some people call it this Scotland, just can't be arsed itis. Can't be arsed in the UK just means can't be bothered, and you have can't be bothered itis. You just manana manana. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later, and then that starts annoying you because you should have done it, and now it's a month, and you maybe should have did this thing at work, and just having that mental clarity in the morning, that motivation, and just that kind of zest to just get on with it, and just literally everything. You want to meet your friends, you want to plan a holiday, you want to start saving. I'm already, like, say, a month and a half in, and I'm already thinking, do I go and do my master's degree? Do I go and do this and that? And should I get more certifications? And just planning holidays for next year, and I've got a savings plan put in, and budgeting, and just all this crap that never really was ever coming to fruition. Not when I was kind of boozing at the weekends, and the odd Wednesday night, etc. Because, like I say, it just does put you off doing anything. But like I say, that's definitely kind of the anxiety, and yeah, that kind of the anxiety going, and just having that energy for life. It's really, really good, and that energy for life as well. That comes after a couple of weeks. For most people. I say if you're ever really, really struggling, you know, highly recommend speaking to a professional. But for people like myself, and I think a lot of my friends and family, and no, not so much my family, they're not big drinkers at all. But I've got loads of friends and colleagues and ex-colleagues that I think really just have that kind of habitual issue. Of just the way we were raised, and you know, say 2 weeks in, you'll end up feeling, uh, you'll get that the brain fog will start to clear 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then, like say, you just one day wake up and you feel clear and you feel great, and you think, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back to college. I'm going to put this plan as I'm going to start going to the gym, and you really want to, and so yeah, that was a big, big part of me kind of getting back to my alcohol-free living 2.0. Um, One thing that was another big issue for me going back to this was my poor sleep. I'm actually quite lucky that I'm a decent sleeper. I think I've got a good friend, lives down in England. I used to work with. He struggles to sleep, and he's always had it, and he doesn't drink. I think he's got a good house and family, etc. I just think something, yeah, one of those just unlucky things that we all have some ailments, and stuff happens when you grow up, and some people get their appendix out, and kids will break their arms and falling off trees, etc., and everyone's got something. And he's just a terrible, terrible sleeper. But for me, looking back to when I was actually not drinking, 2017 to 2022, it was just I just missed that sleeping from 10 till 5 like an absolute baby. And I never knew I could. You forget, because I was, you start drinking in the UK when, I'm 41 now. So, kind of like 15, 16, 14, 15, 16. You start, you're not hitting it super hard, alcohol wise, but, you're still drinking, etc. And then you go in your 20s, and I was in my 30s, and, I wouldn't, I was what, 33 when I stopped the time before that. So, you know, I just I didn't really think I could get back to that sleeping pattern. You're so used to waking up a lot of the time. If you're out, what would normally be the case would be I would just sleep too long on the Sunday. Even if I stayed in the Friday, went out the Saturday, you're maybe home 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. You get home, stick on YouTube, crack open another beer. Maybe your mate asks you to go back to theirs. You maybe get home 3, 4, 5 and sleep, and you're used to maybe getting up at 7 in the morning during the week or for your shift or whatever, or 5 in the morning or 9 in the morning, whatever you do, and you end up sleeping the whole day and you're just tossing and turning the Sunday night. Then you need to get up on the Monday or whenever your shift is or your work is or whatever you do, and you just you just sleep like crap the whole time. And I really, really miss those good sleeps. And I think for me it took, the first few nights, well, the first week actually, you're still trying to get in a routine. I was definitely forcing myself, just go to bed at 10, 11, 12. I think it was about midnight. I was just kind of forcing myself to go to bed, and I would always set my alarm for like 7 in the morning and get up regardless. And for the first couple of weeks, to be honest, um, it was a bit of a struggle. A few days where I was just exhausted and I wanted to go for a nap, but you just pile through it. And now, on a month and a half in, I'm just sleeping like a baby. Maybe get up once during the night for the toilet, and that's it. Just brilliant, you know. Go to the toilet once a night, have a perfect sleep, wake up in the morning and feel absolutely amazing. I always wonder the kind of damage it does to you over the course of years when you're not really sleeping, you're not getting proper REM sleep, the REM sleep where you're actually going proper sleep. You're always kind of sedated when you're, I don't even know if that's really the right term, but you hear people talk about you're kind of more anesthetized through the booze. I used to wake up always during the night, just any sound, anything. Wake up after half an hour wide awake or 2 hours, and now I'm just yawning and yawning at 9, 10 o'clock, head on the pillow, and I'm out 10 minutes, and I just there's just nothing better. So if you're kind of like say thinking of struggling with sleep at the moment, it's definitely something that will improve for most people, I believe. Um, it's just a big difference. Another thing is definitely improved relationships. I think just because you have the energy. I mean, you can split it between you could argue that, well, if you don't, all my friends are down the pub, they're all in the bar, they're all in the club. How can it improve when you're not actually going there? Which is true, but what tends to happen is, well, certainly with me, is you kind of faded out of that lifestyle. You might need to keep it up for a few months, still going down there, but in the end, it gets boring. And it's you that finds it boring. Just going there. I used to go there and watch sports. And it was great, but sitting there for 3, 4 hours while everyone else is drinking, it got really boring. And I would go down. I'd have some zero alcohol beers. When I quit in 2017, there were an awful selection in the UK. It was only Erdinger. The selection now is actually pretty incredible, especially the Guinness Zero, which I do love, and I still drink now. But you just kind of fall out of it. But I think with regards to people who are close to you, and if you have family especially, it'll have a massive difference. Because, like, say you're up every morning, by the time you have your breakfast or come back from the gym or whatever you do in the morning, you're just raring to go. And if that's going with your partner on a huge walk, or your husband or wife, or you're meeting friends to go and do something, you're going for a drive somewhere, or you're going shopping, you're just fully invested in it. You're not waking up dying, maybe thinking, "Oh, I need another drink here to get me through the day," or you're kind of thinking, "Oh, it's Sunday, it's nice weather. I just wish I was in the pub." And then you meet your friends, you're trying to convince them, "Oh, why don't we go for a drink?" You just have a completely different mindset. And I can only imagine the difference if you've got family and friends, not family and yeah, well, not family and friends, but kids. You know, you might wake up, I guess, 5, 6, 7 in the morning, they're jumping on you, and the last thing you want to do is go out and play in the garden or go and kick the ball in the park or take them to the zoo. But when you're not drinking, I can only imagine the difference, spending that whole weekend with them. and your food, and not only spending time with them because you'd probably do that if you're hungover, but actually, really relishing the time and putting in the extra effort to plan stuff, and you're actually there, like in that kind of, and not cliche sense, but you know what I mean. You're actually there, invested in their time. You're not in the back of your mind thinking, "Oh God, I'm struggling here. I wish I could just go home to my bed." And you're trying to maybe push things along so you can get home. So like I say, I think overall, definitely the relationships improve. They won't probably, unfortunately, with people that are just acquaintances, and to be honest, that when I quit first, loads of my friends I still speak to, they don't care. Like I think a true friend, it won't really bother them if you said to them, "I've got a bit of an issue here. I've been struggling with booze lately." I think that a lot of people, like I say, a lot of good friends won't care, and that's what I have now. And maybe when you do it, you'll realize kind of who your real true friends are in your group. But I was lucky. I genuinely don't think anyone cared that I was close with. Um, and that's definitely a sign of the times, I think. If you did that 20 years ago, yeah, I don't think it would. I think it would have been like, what you do and get a drink down you sort of thing. But I think in this day and age, especially like I say, I'm 41, so a lot of people have kids, etc. All your friends, they're going through hangovers. Of course, there's going to be that one person that's maybe just an absolute machine that doesn't really get hangovers, that is disappointed because they're losing their pub mate. But that's just that. I wouldn't lose any sleep over that. Your true friends will still be there, and your family will always be there. And like I say, I think in this day and age, they'll probably be happy for you. A lot of younger people, especially, they're not all the people I know who are kind of much younger, half my age. They just seem to be into the gym. I don't really think, excuse me, clubbing 2, 3 times a week like we used to do is even a thing, especially with the prices these days. So, but like I say, I think they'll improve in the whole. And 6 to 12 months in, you'll start to realize kind of who your real friends are, and I think those relationships will improve a lot as well. Um, and the last point I want to do, and again another really important one for me, is the financial side. Especially, I like drinking Guinness. I think they're about £6 50 for a pint in the UK, which is maybe about €7 20. Maybe upwards of kind of $8 9 US dollars where you go, and it all adds up. By the time, if you're going out and getting an Uber uptown normally, because you can't be bothered waiting on the bus because you're maybe a bit hungover from the night before, or you're running late, and then you're sitting drinking all day. Cocktails are expensive as well. If you drink them, spirits are getting more expensive, and even if you're in the sitting at home in Scotland, we have a minimum drinking price law here, which is yeah, which I don't really know if I agree with. Maybe I'll speak to that about that in another video. But it's getting more and more expensive to buy booze out of the shop. So if you're sitting at home, don't get me wrong, it's way cheaper than going out. But I think saving that money, if you're drinking, going out on a night out, and even once a week, and then you're going to parties, etc., you're going to spend a lot of money. And being able to kind of save that money is just it's just amazing. And I remember when I first quit in 2017. I think maybe a couple of years in, I couldn't believe how much money I'd saved. I'd set up like a savings account and a broker's account, and I was kind of teaching myself about investments, and it was just amazing the difference. You get, as soon as you get a bonus at work, it was straight into, put a couple of thousand in here and 1,000 in there maybe, and pay off a bit of this and pay off a bit of that. And I was just so in control of my finances in like the last few years since I kind of started drinking alcohol again. And like I say, I wouldn't even really class it as too excessive or anything. I'm not any worse than anyone else. Let's say, never, it's not like 7 days a week or anything like that. I'm still having to work. There's no way I would, and I was in the office in my last job a few times a week, so you're not going to turn up stinking of booze. Maybe you could have done that 10, 20 years ago, but nobody really turns up hungover anymore, or not that I can see, and nobody smokes at work, and it's all changed in the last 10, 20 years. But uh, Yeah, I mean, even like say you're gonna if you go uptown in Edinburgh, you're gonna spend a couple of £100, which is like a couple of €100, 300 US dollars just on a night out. Because like, by the time you get food and you maybe get Ubers and you're paying to go in and see a DJ or a club and then maybe get food afterwards, etc. It's just all adds up. It's ridiculous. But just like I say, it's just pretty incredible. And I think that, and of course, it happens really straight away. You take a week not boozing. Even if you're having a glass bottle of wine every night. I know I've got some friends that do that. You might be £10 or euros or dollars every night, and that's 70 every week. You know, 280 a month, where you're just when it's saved, and that might be your car payment. And there's great apps out there that let you track it, and I would highly suggest it to um, to download one of them and track actually how much you're spending because it really is pretty amazing how you receive how much sorry you save. Well, anyway, that's the end of my five benefits. I'll maybe go through some more in our next video. I hope you kind of got a bit there about my background and just hope that maybe there's another channel out there that'll support your sober journey or your alcohol-free journey ahead. It really, really is an absolute game changer. Like I say, just for me, waking up full of energy and amazing sleep, having that zest for the day, which I didn't really think, I never thought I could feel as sharp and healthy and kind of positive minded as I did. Feel like when you're back as a kid, when you used to get up at the weekend and you were just so energetic, and that all comes back, and how good you kind of look in the mirror and no bags under your eyes. You're not stinking of booze at the weekend if you're meeting people. It's just incredible. And then you get that financial side, every month you've somehow got loads of money in the bank, regardless of kind of how much money you're earning. If you're not spending that money on booze, then it's going to be there. And then you put month after month, and then you think, wow, by the end of the year, you've got a massive savings. You can spend that to go on holiday. You can buy yourself a new TV or clothes, or pay off a bit of the mortgage, or take your kids or partners, husbands, wives on amazing holidays, and you just never get that financial worry at all. It's just pretty incredible. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you do, or you have enjoyed this content. Hopefully, I'll release a daily video. That's the plan anyway. Maybe try and do one video a day because I have so much time on my hands. Maybe that's another benefit I should have spoken about, the amount of time I've got on my hands. If you're not out partying or you're not out sitting in a pub or a bar or lying in bed dying, you've got all this time on your hand. It's pretty incredible. I'll do a video about that one. I've got quite a lot written down about the kind of challenges as well with having so much time on your hands because a lot of the time you don't really know what to do with it. But like I say, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and I'll see you next time. Bye.